Today, guys, we have another interesting what if? What if Maki Zenin was Cure March? A girl with no cursed energy getting magical girl powers. Now let's see how the episode 4 Changes of Smile procure. This would be a very different episode 4. While now Midorikawa is kind, nurturing, and naturally protective, Maki Zenin is disciplined, blunt, and fearless. Assuming Maki replaces now as the person who becomes Cure March, but still receives the same wind-based pretty cure powers, the episode would take on a much more action-oriented tone. Before the transformation, the original episode focuses on now helping her younger siblings and showing how dependable she is. Maki doesn't have a large family to take care of, so the story would instead emphasize her determination and sense of responsibility. Some possible changes. Maki is introduced training alone before school. She quickly notices something suspicious about the Akanb attacks. Rather than being popular, because she's friendly, other students know her as the athletic girl who never backs down from a challenge. Miyuki, Akin, and Yayo initially think she's intimidating. Miyuki might say, "She looks so scary," while Yae nervously hides behind Akin. Encounter with Wolfrun. When Wolfrun creates the Akanb, Maki doesn't hesitate. Instead of protecting everyone first like now does, she'd immediately charge toward the monster. Wolfrun, "You're actually coming at me." Maki, "If you're hurting innocent people, I'm ending this." She'd try fighting with pure martial arts before receiving her cure powers. Since Maki is already an elite close combat fighter, she'd perform far better than an ordinary human. Candy recognizes her. Candy would notice something special about Maki's courage. Unlike now, whose strength comes from compassion, Maki's comes from unwavering resolve. The Smile Pact appears. Pretty Cure, Smile Charge. Cure March. Her appearance would remain mostly the same because Pretty Cure transformations are tied to the Cure identity rather than the civilian's fashion. The biggest difference is her demeanor. Instead of smiling confidently, she stands perfectly still, calm, focused, almost like a veteran warrior. Fighting style. This is where everything changes. Original Cure March relies on speed, agility, kicks, wind attacks. Maki adds years of martial arts experience. She immediately begins using precise counters, throws, sweeps, joint locks, acrobatic kicks, combinations between physical attacks and wind magic. For example, instead of simply punching the Akanb, she dodges underneath a swing, breaks its balance, launches it upward with a spinning kick, then follows with March Shoot. The battle ends much faster. Wolfrun's reaction. Wolfrun would be completely caught off guard. Original. She's fast. Here. What is this girl? She fights like she's done this her whole life. He would probably retreat much sooner than in canon. Team dynamic afterward. This is one of the biggest differences. Miyuki. Miyuki admires Maki's strength, but is a little intimidated. She keeps trying to get Maki to smile more. Akin. Akin absolutely loves sparring. The two would probably become training partners. Their conversations often become, Akin. Wanna train? Maki. Sure. Yae. Yae is initially scared of Maki. But after seeing Maki quietly help someone without expecting thanks, she realizes Maki is kinder than she appears. Rieka. Interestingly, Rieka would probably understand Maki the quickest. Both are disciplined and serious. They'd often communicate without many words. Cure March's powers with Maki. Maki would master them unusually quickly. She'd rapidly learn to combine wind jumps, enhanced speed, air dashes, wind-assisted punches, tornado kicks. She'd probably invent entirely new techniques. For example, March Cyclone Kick, a spinning kick wrapped in green wind that launches enemies into the air. Or March Tempest Rush, a rapid series of martial arts strikes amplified by wind, overwhelming opponents before finishing with March Shoot. Ending of Episode 4. Instead of everyone celebrating Maki becoming the fourth cure with lots of excitement, the ending is quieter. Miyuki thanks Maki. Maki simply replies, "I'm not doing this because I'm special." She looks toward the city. If people are in danger, someone has to fight. Candy smiles. That's exactly why you're a pretty cure. The others realize that behind Maki's stoic exterior is someone deeply committed to protecting others. While she expresses it very differently from now, she embodies the core pretty cure ideal of using strength to defend those who cannot defend themselves. From this point onward, the Smile team gains a frontline fighter whose tactical instincts and hand-to-hand combat skills make battles against the Bad End Kingdom noticeably shorter and more coordinated. Now let's find out if Maki Zenin will get to her max potential. Maki Zenin would likely surpass the original Cure March in how efficiently she uses her powers, even if both ultimately reach the same maximum level of pretty cure power. The key difference is that now learns as an athletic middle school student, while Maki is already an elite warrior. She has years of combat training, weapon mastery, and tactical thinking before ever becoming a pretty cure. Would Maki reach Cure March's awakening? Yes. If we assume the story progresses similarly, and Maki experiences the same emotional growth and determination that unlocked Cure March's full potential, she would reach the same awakening. That means she would gain access to everything Cure March eventually learned, including March Shoot, March Impact, enhanced wind manipulation, greatly increased speed, higher physical strength and durability, the ability to fight on equal footing with the strongest Bad End Kingdom generals. However, Maki's fighting experience would let her use these abilities in more creative ways. Could she learn March Impact? Definitely. March Impact is one of Cure March's strongest close-range techniques, and it's practically made for someone like Maki. Instead of treating it as a finishing move she only uses occasionally, Maki would likely incorporate it into her regular combat style. For example, knock an enemy off balance with martial arts, launch them into the air with a wind-enhanced kick, leap after them, finish with a point-blank March Impact. Against larger monsters, she'd use March Impact to target weak points rather than simply firing it head-on. Better mastery of wind. Maki would probably discover techniques that now never thought of. Examples include wind step. She creates bursts of wind beneath her feet, allowing her to instantly change direction in midair. Cyclone throw. Using her judo and grappling skills, Maki grabs an opponent and surrounds both of them with spinning wind before throwing them tremendous distances. Gale counter. Instead of blocking an attack, she redirects it with a burst of wind and immediately counters with a punch or kick. Tornado dash. She accelerates with compressed wind, making her charges even faster than Cure March's normal speed. Physical abilities. One of Cure March's greatest strengths is already her physical power. Giving those powers to Maki multiplies her effectiveness. Team battles. Maki would become the Smile team's battlefield strategist. Instead of everyone attacking independently, she'd naturally coordinate the group. For example, Miyuki, Cure Happy, distracts the enemy. Yae, Cure Peace, attacks from range with lightning. Akin, Cure Sunny, cuts off escape routes with fire. Maki, Cure March, closes in at high speed and lands March Impact. Rieka, Cure Beauty, freezes the enemy in place for the finishing attack. Her combat awareness from Jujutsu Kaisen would make the Smile team significantly more organized. Could she create entirely new finishers? Very likely, Pretty Cure powers often evolve based on the user's personality and fighting style. Since Maki constantly adapts in battle, she would probably develop original techniques such as March Tempest Impact, an upgraded March impact that surrounds her fist with a concentrated tornado before delivering the strike. Emerald Hurricane Rush, a rapid barrage of wind-enhanced punches and kicks that overwhelms opponents before they can recover. Cyclone Breaker, a spinning aerial kick that generates a vertical tornado, launching large Akan into the sky before finishing them with March Shoot. Overall potential. By the end of the series, Maki would likely equal the original Cure March in raw Pretty Cure power, since we're assuming they achieve the same awakening. The difference is in how that power is used. Because of her years of combat training, Maki would likely be a more efficient and technically skilled fighter. She would combine Pretty Cure's immense physical abilities with elite martial arts, battlefield tactics, and disciplined decision-making. Against opponents of equal strength, that experience would often give her an advantage, making her one of the most formidable close combat cures in the franchise. Now let's find out if Maki Zenin as Cure March is enough to defeat Ryomen Sukuna in his high-end form. If we assume Maki has all of her canon Jujutsu Kaisen abilities plus the fully awakened powers of Cure March at the end of Smile per Cure, including March Impact and the normal Pretty Cure level of physical enhancement, then she would become far more useful during the Shinjuku Showdown. However, whether she could defeat Hyanira Sukuna alone depends on how the two power systems interact. If Pretty Cure powers and Cursed Energy coexist. In this crossover, Maki still has her heavenly restriction, giving her immense physical abilities and immunity to many Cursed Energy sensing techniques. She gains Cure March's transformation, wind manipulation, healing stamina, and Pretty Cure durability. Sukuna retains all of his Hyanira abilities, including Shrine, Domain Expansion, Kamutoke if present, and his immense combat skill. This makes Maki dramatically stronger than her canon self. What changes? Maki's biggest improvements would be much higher speed. Cure March is already one of the fastest Smile cures, and combining that with Maki's athleticism would make her extraordinarily difficult to catch. Flight or high-speed aerial movement using wind. Long-range attacks, something canon Maki lacks. Greater durability, since Pretty Cures routinely survive impacts that would incapacitate most Jujutsu sorcerers. Higher stamina, allowing her to fight for much longer. Instead of being purely a close-range fighter, she could pressure Sukuna from multiple distances. Could she contribute more? Absolutely. In canon, Maki lands meaningful hits but cannot stay in the fight indefinitely. With Cure March's powers, she could continuously harass Sukuna with wind attacks. Rescue injured allies much more easily using her speed. Interrupt Sukuna's attacks more often. Create openings for Yuji, Yuta, or the others. She would probably become one of the most valuable fighters on the battlefield. Could March Impact hurt Sukuna? Yes. If Pretty Cure attacks are able to affect cursed beings in this crossover, then March Impact would be a legitimate threat. However, Sukuna has survived attacks from characters such as Gojo, Yuta, Kashimo, Yuji, and others. One powerful strike would not necessarily end the fight. Maki would need repeated clean hits. The biggest obstacle, domain expansion. The largest problem remains Malevolent Shrine. Even with enhanced durability, Sukuna's domain is designed to bombard everything within its range with relentless slashing attacks. Pretty Cure durability could help Maki survive longer than her canon counterpart, but there is no evidence that Cure March's powers inherently negate or disable domains. Unless she escapes the domain or another character counters it, it remains one of Sukuna's strongest advantages. Could she defeat Hyan Sukuna alone? Under the assumption that Cure March's abilities remain at roughly their canonical level, probably not. The reasons include Sukuna is an extraordinarily skilled strategist who adapts quickly. He possesses domain expansion. His regeneration and endurance are immense. He has repeatedly defeated multiple top-tier opponents in succession. Maki would likely push him harder than her canon version ever could, but defeating a fresh high-end Sukuna by herself is still unlikely. If Pretty Cure scaling is taken literally, there is another interpretation. Pretty Cure protagonists are often depicted overcoming threats that can endanger entire worlds or even universes through the franchise's stylized, optimistic power escalation. If you apply that style of scaling directly to this crossover, treating Cure March's highest feats as literal and fully transferable to Maki, then the balance changes dramatically. Under that interpretation, Maki's physical strength and durability would be vastly beyond the level shown in Jujutsu Kaisen. Sukuna's slashing attacks might no longer be sufficient to seriously injure her. March impact and other finishers could potentially overpower Sukuna outright. In that version of the crossover, yes, Maki could plausibly defeat Heian Sukuna alone. Overall conclusion: the answer depends on which settings power scaling you prioritize. Jujutsu Kaisen, based scaling, the more conservative crossover. Maki becomes one of the strongest allies in the Shinjuku Showdown and is significantly more effective than in canon, but she still likely cannot defeat a fresh Heian Sukuna by herself. Literal Pretty Cure scaling. Maki's transformed state reaches a level of power that far exceeds what Jujutsu Kaisen characters normally display. In that interpretation, she has a credible path to defeating Sukuna on her own. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and like. Bye, guys.